Barry Sanders was not built like a prototypical football player. He wasn't tall, he didn't talk much, and he never sought the spotlight. But on the field, he moved like no one else before him, like a blur of grace and speed and pure instinct. He was elusive, electric, and utterly mesmerizing. A player who made defenders miss by inches and left fans breathless. Barry Sanders didn't just play football. He danced with it. Born on July 16, 1968, in Wichita, Kansas, Barry David Sanders was the sixth of 11 children in the Sanders household. His father, William, was a strict, hard-working carpenter and roofer who believed in discipline, humility, and above all, hard work. William idolized Jim Brown and made sure his children understood what greatness really looked like, but he never pressured Barry. In fact, as a child, Barry didn't even stand out among his siblings. He wasn't the biggest or the loudest, and his early high school years saw him buried on the bench behind other running backs. It wasn't until his senior year at Wichita North High School that Barry finally got a chance to start. When he did, he made the most of it, rushing for over 1,300 yards in just 7 games, showing flashes of the agility and explosiveness that would define his career. Despite his late breakout, Barry didn't attract major college attention. Most big-time programs passed on him. Oklahoma State University took a chance, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions in college football history. At OSU, Barry spent his first 2 seasons as the backup to another future NFL star, Thurman Thomas. But when Thomas went to the NFL, Sanders stepped into the spotlight and completely rewrote the record books. The 1988 college football season remains one of the greatest individual seasons in the history of the sport. Barry Sanders rushed for an astonishing 2,628 yards and scored 37 touchdowns in just 11 games. He averaged 238 rushing yards per game. He recorded 5 games with over 300 all-purpose yards. No one had ever seen a season like it. He won the Heisman Trophy by a landslide, cementing himself as a college legend. And then, to the surprise of no one, he declared for the NFL draft. In 1989, the Detroit Lions selected Barry Sanders with the 3rd overall pick. Almost immediately, he became the heart of the team. In his very first game, he rushed for 71 yards and a touchdown, despite only getting 9 carries. By the end of the season, he had over 1,400 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. He won the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award and narrowly missed out on the rushing title by just 10 yards. He was offered the ball in the final moments of the final game to secure the title, but he declined, showing humility and team-first values that would define his career. For the next decade, Barry Sanders was nothing short of extraordinary. He rushed for over 1,000 yards in each of his 10 seasons. He made the Pro Bowl every year. He turned routine handoffs into highlight reel plays. He was a magician with the ball in his hands, a blur of movement and vision and balance. Defenders would think they had him surrounded, only to see him twist, cut, and vanish into open space. His running style was unlike anything the league had seen: low center of gravity, rapid-fire feet, and an uncanny ability to make people miss in tight quarters. He didn't run over people. He ran around them. And more often than not, they couldn't even touch him. Barry never had a great supporting cast. The Lions struggled with consistency, coaching changes, and lackluster offensive lines. Yet he still put up legendary numbers. In 1994, he reached 1,883 rushing yards. In 1997, he had arguably his finest season, rushing for 2,053 yards and becoming just the 3rd player in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark. That year, he rushed for over 100 yards in 14 straight games, tying an NFL record, and shared the NFL MVP award with Green Bay Packers quarterback Brett Favre. He also became the first player in history to rush for 1,500 yards in 5 different seasons. And yet, for all his success, Barry Sanders remained an enigma. He never spiked the ball. He didn't celebrate with choreographed dances. He rarely granted interviews. He just handed the ball to the referee and jogged back to the sideline. To Barry, greatness didn't need a spotlight. He let his feet do the talking. Fans admired him not just for what he did, but for how he did it, with quiet excellence, grace, and humility. But then, just when the football world was preparing for Barry to break every record imaginable, he walked away. In July 1999, just before the start of training camp and only 1 season away from potentially becoming the NFL's all-time leading rusher, Barry Sanders announced his retirement. He faxed a letter to his hometown newspaper, the Wichita Eagle, thanking fans and explaining his decision. He He was 31 years old, still in peak physical condition, and just 1,457 yards shy of Walter Payton's rushing record. The football world was stunned. Fans, analysts, and teammates couldn't understand why a player still at the top of his game would walk away. There were no scandals, no injuries, no public drama. For Barry, the decision was personal. He had lost his love for the game. He was tired of losing, tired of watching his team flounder. And rather than cling to the spotlight or chase personal milestones, he left on his own terms, with dignity, the same way he played. Barry's retirement only added to his mystique. He didn't seek a coaching job. He didn't become a broadcaster. He slipped out of the public eye, choosing to live a quiet life and spend time with his family. But his legacy only grew. In 2004, he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In his acceptance speech, he thanked his father, who had always been his biggest supporter and had once told him, "Son, you're good, but you're no Jim Brown." It was a running joke in their family. At the Hall of Fame ceremony, Barry turned to his father and said, "Dad, I made it. I made it." Barry Sanders' induction into the Hall of Fame was not only a celebration of his statistics, but of the way he played the game, with elegance, humility, and a respect for the sport that transcended generations. His career totals spoke for themselves. 15,269 rushing yards, 99 rushing touchdowns, and 10 consecutive Pro Bowl selections. But those numbers, impressive as they are, only tell part of the story. To truly understand Barry Sanders, one must look beyond the stats and into the essence of what he represented, a kind of artistry that defied logic and a commitment to excellence that never demanded applause. One of the most remarkable things about Barry Sanders is how he became a legend without ever demanding to be one. He wasn't a media darling. He didn't talk trash. He didn't seek endorsements or argue for MVP awards. He didn't have to. His runs did the talking. Watching Barry run was like watching jazz in motion, improvisational, unpredictable, and completely mesmerizing. He would change direction 5 times on a single play, elude defenders in phone booth-sized spaces, and make world-class athletes look like they were standing still. Every game he played was an opportunity to witness something unforgettable. Teammates revered him. Opponents respected him. Coaches trusted him. And fans loved him, not just for what he did, but for how he made them feel. In a sport built on violence and aggression, Barry brought poetry and finesse. He ran with joy, with purpose, with freedom. He didn't need a Super Bowl ring to validate his greatness. His greatness was self-evident. Barry's impact extended far beyond the football field. His quiet demeanor and modest approach became a model for athletes across all sports. He showed that you didn't need to be brash to be brilliant, that you didn't need to shout to be heard. His example taught young athletes the value of discipline, the power of focus, and the strength of humility. Even after retirement, his influence remained. NFL running backs often mention Barry Sanders as their idol, not just because of his highlight reels, but because of the way he carried himself, both in victory and defeat. Over the years, the debate around Barry Sanders' legacy has continued to grow. Some argue he was the greatest pure runner of all time. Others say he could have shattered every record if he had kept playing. But those discussions only reinforce what made Barry so unique. He was never defined by numbers. He was defined by moments, those split-second bursts of brilliance when he turned what should have been a loss into a touchdown, when he left defenders diving at air, when he made the impossible seem effortless. In Detroit, Barry remains a mythical figure. He gave Lions fans hope, excitement, and pride during an era when wins were hard to come by. He was the shining light, the reason to watch, the reason to believe. Decades after his final game, fans still wear his jersey, still cheer when his highlights play, still wish he had one more season. But deep down, they know he gave them everything he had, every yard, every cut, every burst of lightning in a bottle. Barry's relationship with the game has evolved over time. In his post-retirement years, he has gradually returned to the public eye, participating in NFL events, mentoring young players, and even working in an ambassador role with the Detroit Lions. He remains thoughtful, introspective, and humble. He doesn't boast about his past. He doesn't lament what could have been. Instead, he reflects with peace and gratitude for the game, for the fans, for the chance to do what he loved and walk away on his own terms. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of Barry Sanders' story is the way it ends, not with a dramatic fall, not with a career cut short by injury, not with a desperate final season clinging to glory. It ends with grace. He stepped away quietly, with dignity, with the same calm confidence he showed every time he broke through the line of scrimmage. In doing so, he preserved not just his body, but his mystique. He reminded the world that there's beauty in knowing when to let go. Today, Barry Sanders is often cited as the greatest running back never to play in a Super Bowl. But that label does little justice to what he meant to the game. Super Bowls come and go. Statistics fade. But style, integrity, and inspiration, they endure. Barry Sanders inspired millions not by telling them what to do, but by showing them. He showed that greatness doesn't need noise, that effort can be elegant, that humility can be powerful, and that sometimes walking away at the right moment is the most courageous play of all. For younger fans who never saw him live, YouTube clips and documentaries offer a glimpse of what once was. But for those who witnessed him in real time, Barry Sanders remains something magical. He was the kind of player who made you lean forward every time he touched the ball. The kind who could make an entire stadium gasp with one sudden cut. The kind who reminded everyone that football, at its best, is not just a sport, it's an art. And in the gallery of that art, Barry Sanders holds a place of honor, his runs framed in memory, his legacy painted in movement. He may not have said much, but he spoke volumes every time he stepped onto the field. With every juke, every spin, every refusal to be tackled, he told a story of what it means to be brilliant and humble, gifted and grounded. A story that, years later, still echoes in the hearts of those who watched him run. Barry Sanders, the quiet storm, the elusive genius, the poet in cleats. A once-in-a-generation talent who left too soon, and exactly when he was supposed to.